right, so President Trump back on the world stage this week, as you know, kicking off a high-stakes tour across Asia aimed at strengthening America's position in the region and rebuilding trade relationships that many say were neglected under the Biden administration. The president landed in Tokyo early Monday today, meeting with Japan's emperor and the new prime minister, Sanae Takaichi. The White House says talks centered on boosting U.S. investment, expanding defense cooperation, and countering China's influence in the Pacific. President Trump also announced a series of major trade deals, including a $550 billion investment pledge from Japan to buy soybeans. Not only that, but earlier in the trip, he helped broker a ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia, another diplomatic win that few saw coming, and it ends the shooting. His trip is expected to conclude in a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea on Thursday this week, where the world's two largest economies will seek to avert an escalation of the ongoing trade war. Or maybe they won't. We'll see what happens. Here with me to discuss this further is retired United States Marine Corps Top Gun fighter pilot and author of the book God Talks, Ed Rush. Ed, nice to see you back on the program.
Yeah, Steve, good to be back on again. I watched the prior footage with the lawyers on Zoom. I couldn't help but think of that cat. Remember that lawyer that turned himself into a cat? That's what I always think of when I see lawyers on Zoom. That's all.
Can't help that either. You know what I'm thinking about there is how can you prevent the media from taking photographs and video in an open courtroom? He's going to have a challenge there, I think, in the First Amendment.
Yeah,
that's what I was considering in the break. I mean, how do you do that?
Or getting an impartial jury. I mean, this kind of thing, I mean, only happens probably once every 10 or 20 years where, I mean, it's impossible to find an American who can come into that jury impartially. I mean, like everyone in the United States is partial, sadly, one way or another. But it'll be interesting to see what pans out. I'm sure justice will be served in the end.
Yeah, you know, we jumped off. I was just discussing soybeans. I had a friend write me a letter about how he hates Donald Trump because of all the terrible things he's done to farmers, for example. And I want to jump into this because of the deal that we just heard about from Japan, $550 billion. Part of that, or a large part of that, is buying soybeans. The 52-week low happened in December of 2024. Soybeans are actually worth about 6% more today than they were in December of 2024. Now, farmers aren't getting rich, but this idea that the tariffs with China are bankrupting soybean farmers is hogwash. I know because I talk to soybean farmers, I talk to ranchers, I have a good connection with the agricultural community. Apparently those that bump their gums, they talk about things they don't know what they're talking about. The fact of the matter is this deal with Japan is big because the farmers I talk to, Ed, and you probably have heard the same thing, they do not want to be beholden to the whims of the Chinese Communist Party when it comes to anything, agricultural product of any sort. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, our most important trade partners are obviously north and south of us. But next to that, really close, by the way, is China, frankly, and Japan. And the president, you know, it's one of the things I love about our president. You know, I was in the military, but then I became a business guy. Business largely centers around discussions that turn economic, which are negotiations. And the president's only been doing this for, you know, the last 50 years. So when it comes to actually negotiating things and getting the job done, he's excellent. I mean, I don't think there's anyone better on the world stage right now. And he really knows how to set the expectation for the discussion, which clearly he did with tariffs. I think what you saw today between Thailand and Cambodia was a big step forward. What you're seeing him do in Japan is a big step forward. And certainly the meeting he's going to have with the Chinese leader, I think it's today or tomorrow, is absolutely huge. I think that's when it really the rubber hits the road. The president said, you know, he has a lot of respect for the president. Like that means they're going to come together and talk about something. It'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, you know, here's a couple of things that people probably haven't heard much about. Yesterday there were elections in Argentina, and the lower house in Argentina gave a remarkable win to Javier Milei. They turned out in great numbers, giving him more power to continue with his reversal of socialist policies. The new Prime Minister of Japan, hardcore conservative, who's going to crack down on all immigration to her country. You see, there's a correction going on. It's not just in the United States. It is in Argentina. It is in Japan. It is in Italy. It is a global phenomenon because people are sick and tired of being pushed around by these bully leftists, and they are bullies. You open your borders. We demand that you give us this and give us this. And no, stop. We like our heritage. We like our culture. We like our language. We like our countries. And we intend to defend them, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you have two options when a government gets out of hand. You have reform or revolution. Ideally, reform is the most peaceful choice. The lodestar for this, by the way, was El Salvador. You know, 7 years ago, that completely flipped that country from the top murder country in the world to one of the lowest, actually, I think lower than our murder rate. And then you see this populist spread literally across the world. And you see where there's pockets of tension, like, for example, in the UK, with the government completely gone awry, that either needs to reform itself, frankly, or face legitimate revolution from inside of their country. It wouldn't be the first time. And so, yeah, this movement is very positive. It's a rising up of the populace against tyrannical government. And frankly, I think it's about time.
I agree. Let me give you one more thing that's been hot. I'm hearing Democrats say that taking speedboats, by the way, I've not seen a fishing boat yet that has 400 horse engines strapped across the back doing about 100 miles across the open ocean. You're kind of an expert in things that go fast, right? Top Gun pilot. I don't see fishing boats going 100 miles an hour. I mean, that's trolling pretty fast from what I remember. It's nonsense. And so Donald Trump is taking the fight right to the drug cartels and their delivery systems. And the Democrats would have you believe that somehow this is the wrong action. Look, 100,000 Americans die in this country every year from the poison that gets shipped in from these places. Mexico, Colombia, you pick your place. What do you make about it? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, I've had not one, but two of my siblings die from fentanyl overdoses. So this issue hits home for me. As a military veteran, I can tell you, we do not shoot on things unless our intelligence is really, really good. I can't go through the entire ROE, but you basically need three things. One, clear field of fire. Number two, presence of enemy or presence of hostile, and absence of friendly. That's number three. We don't squeeze the trigger until we've got all three of those. So the rules of engagement are very clear on something like this. I trust that if the Department of Defense or our drug and addiction agencies had all those things settled when they fired, these are real drug agents that are coming across. And by the way,
they absolutely are drug running boats. There's no question about that. These people are saying, "Oh, they're fishermen." I think these people have been getting too much of that Mexican weed. Honestly, I mean, what are you smoking? These are high speed cigarette boats, or whatever you want to call them. These are high performance. Some of these boats are $1 million. They go that fast, right? They are. You know that. To argue otherwise is insanity. Anyhow, real quick, last word.
Yeah, and striking terror into the heart of any other drug lord that wants to come across the border. And I think that's the point, not just killing a few drug guys, but putting fear into the heart of our enemy across the border.
Amen to that. I think that kind of comes back to your book. You're the author of the book, God Talks. He sure does, sometimes with full prejudice. Ed, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Steve.
Really appreciate it. All right, coming up after the break, New York City voters head to the polls in a week to vote on the city's next mayor. Questions loom over this socialist candidate, 34-year-old Zoran Mandami. His campaign funding from foreign donors like George Soros and others. More details straight ahead.